Hi, this is Neil Murray with John Broughton on Retrospectives, KC Radio 97.7 FM.
You grew up in country Victoria. Was the pull there for you at a young age to head north to the heart of Australia?
Yeah, I think by the time I got into my teens, I wanted to go out in the outback, so to speak.
Were your songwriting influences growing up coming mostly from Australian sources?
Yeah, I suppose. No, probably. Songwriting as such, I think I was hearing mainstream rock stuff on the radio and that, I think, and it was mostly the big names. No, I didn't really have any Australian influences as such early on. I think it was just listening to the Beatles and the Stones and Bob Dylan and Neil Young. I think it was hearing those artists, the songwriter, singer-songwriter type artists, that's kind of influenced me more.
Have you ever wondered of the career path that you may have gone by had you not moved north?
No, I've never really thought about that. It was by the late 70s, it was a kind of couldn't sort of resolve the pull. I mean, one side of me really wanted to stay in the city and stay in Melbourne and really get immersed in the music that was happening, but the other thing was the pull to the interior, to the outback, and to live amongst Aboriginal people. That won out in the end, so I headed north. I've been going since '78, or actually since '76. I started to make trips into the interior, but '78 was my first time I actually got to the Territory, and then of course in 1980 I actually got up there to work.
Tell us about the initial formation of the Warumpi Band. Did you have initial goals or a game plan there, what you were trying to achieve with the outfit?
No, not really. Just about everywhere I'd been prior to that, I'd sort of formed a band around. When I was working at Rumpy in 1979 for a year teaching there in the high school. And I got a little band going there in that town, just with people that I met that could play a bit, So it was the same thing, same deal. I landed at Papunya and had my guitar and amp with me, and I soon met up with the local young blokes who were into playing music, that being Sammy Butcher and his brother and other interested young men at the time, and so once again I just became a catalyst for some sort of a band forming, and didn't really think about I had no major plan, even as late as 1983, when I actually spent some time in Sydney. 4 to 6 months I think I spent down there. Even though the band was kind of alive and happening, I really didn't think that it was going to amount to anything. I still had my own songs that I was trying to write and stuff, and just kind of all, it just developed its own momentum, and so it certainly wasn't planned. I did have a vague idea that I was going to go back to the city at some stage and do something in music. I thought it would just be myself, I thought I'd either go back to the city and perhaps get involved in a band back in the city, or else I'd be able to somehow generate my own album from the songs that I'd been writing prior to even going to Papunya even. But it soon became apparent that the Warumpi Band was going to emerge as being a major vehicle that I was going to be involved in.
In a live situation, musically, did it all pretty well come together in its early stages? Did it take long to gel? Because I guess you were charting new musical territory there.
Well, it didn't take long for us to be up and playing gigs. We soon got hold of some equipment and stuff, and pretty quickly sorted itself out. The only thing that we didn't really have a proper lead singer. I mean, I was doing a lot of the singing myself, and a couple of other people at Papunya was singing as well early on. This is before George Rudham arrived. He was actually at this point at Yunamu, a nearby settlement. He was actually singing for another band there, and a band called the Poor Boys. But when he started to turn up at Papunya quite a bit, and sensibly, because he was courting his wife there, and then he started to come to our rehearsals and insisted on singing and stuff, so we naturally just let him, sing with us. And so when he finally, was living in Papunya and he became the lead vocalist, especially for the rock and roll sort of side of the band, you got to remember that there was up to about a dozen blokes that were kind of in and around this band. There was a core of Sammy Butcher and Gordon Butcher and myself and George, but there was 2 or 3 guys that took turns on bass, and then there's a whole other group that actually played with the instruments as well and called themselves and did kind of country stuff, and there's another few that sort of did gospel things. So whenever we travelled to another community and did a gig, it wasn't like just the one band playing, but the Warumpi Band was this amorphous kind of collection of young men who performed a show, and they usually had, country or gospel would do a set, play for, half hour or something, and then finally when the real sort of rock and roll band got on, that was basically when I was involved, and people would swap around instruments and things, and we'd finish off the evening. So that's how the early gigs kind of were structured, yeah. So,
Did you have a feeling at the time, or a sense of feeling at the time, that you were pioneers in a way, charting a new musical territory there?
No, not really. It was all about just mastery of the instruments, and also initially it was mostly covers, and then we were just playing covers, but I had these songs and I was always trying to get the band to kind of to play them, I suppose. Some of them weren't perhaps suitable for the band, but a few things were happening all at once. There was a combination of things that I was learning the language, literature, and I was also involved in a bilingual education program, at least from 81 onwards. And there was a need to create songs that people could sing in language and that the kids could identify with, rather than just singing out the latest pop songs. Also, at the same time, CARMA, the Central Aboriginal Australian Media Association, was being started up by John McCumber and Philip Batty and Alice Spriggs, and I knew Philip Batty quite well, and I used to often socialise with him and John McCumber when I went to town. And they'd just got a half an hour spot on the ABC is to start off an Aboriginal kind of segment, but their ambitions were pretty major, because they obviously talk about getting an Aboriginal radio station up and running full on. So to do that, they wanted to have some material music to play, that would be relevant, and especially songs in language and that. So that was Philip Batty, I remember, encouraging me to try and, get the band to do original material. That was happening at the same time. And a direct response to that was the song Jarling Rapakana. I remember one weekend talking to Philip at Alice Springs, and then going back to Alice, and then in about 5 or 10 minutes sitting down with Sammy Butcher, and we wrote that song in like 5 or 10 minutes. It was a very simple kind of formula. And the other influence, of course, was, you must know Frank Yammer, his father, Isaac, who's passed on now, but he was one Aboriginal songwriter in the region who was writing his own material in a kind of a country style, but still he was writing original material in Pitjantjatjara.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was an influence on the band, and we thought, well, if this bloke can do that, we should be able to do some stuff too. So gradually we started to write more songs, and I was starting to see that the band could be a vehicle for songs, and that instead of just playing covers, because up until that time, just about every community had some sort of a band with a few instruments, but they were always playing either country and western covers or a few of the old rock and roll covers. So we had to step beyond that and actually embrace the music more, even though it was still a western kind of rock style. By making our own songs, that was embracing the music and declaring that it was a fundamental shift to go from playing covers to actually making your own songs. And around that area, the only person I'd seen who had made his own songs was Isaac Yammer, who was singing in Pitjantjatjara. Right? So the other things, because of Karma starting up, it became a magnet for other bands. Like Coloured Stone eventually relocated and were based in Alice Springs for many years during the early 80s too.
Mm-hmm.
So they come up from down further south. So I had when we started to write songs, it created a shift, and also the community's attitude, that is like the home community, Papunya's attitude changed. It wasn't so much that we were just seen as a novelty act and for entertainment. When we started to sing songs back to the community in language and in literature, and songs that were obviously pertinent and relevant to people's lives and their worldview, it was a shift in people's regard for us. They suddenly saw us as being not just a fun thing for young people to, have dances to and that, but somehow we were seen as being having a voice, and especially with the growth of the radio starting up as well, and then hearing the songs on radio, there was a new pride instilled in us, and it just all encouraged us to tour further afield. Like we went, started touring up north further into the Kimberleys and all that. And it just, the enthusiasm that the band was generating was just started to spread everywhere,
4 minutes to 11. Taking it another step, how has the band's music translated to overseas audiences over the years?
We've only done limited stuff overseas. We did a tour of Europe in 1995, and we were quite well received, especially in Germany, and Italy and France was reasonable, I suppose. It was the band's first time in that area. Closer to home in the South Pacific region, we've done PNG and Solomon Islands and Vanuatu and gone down extremely well in those regions. I think the biggest thing, in Germany we seem to go over well because they're sort of more into the rock thing there, I think, but I kind of think in France we were sort of, people were a bit dumbfounded because they thought we were seeing Aboriginal blokes in the band, they assumed a certain style or a certain sound about us, which wasn't the case. We were actually pretty much a rock and roll band playing in a Western kind of format with Indigenous influence in terms of the songs, the kind of songs we wrote, the use of language, a bit of the use of didgeridoo, boomerang percussion. But apart from that, it was pretty much, it pretty much had that kind of Western rock and country influence to it, And so some people had to come to terms with that. They sort of assumed that we just somehow sound more like, for want of a better word, tribal, or sound more like a corroboree. It took some explaining at the time to various people to explain to them why we did not sound like that, and if they wanted something like that, they should get a dance act, a traditional dance group, if that's what they want to hear. So I'd say that was a perception in France a bit, but still, once we did our gigs, we did go over very well. and people were swept up with the enthusiasm of it a bit. Yeah.
Your songwriting, have you always written knowing where the song is going to wind up, whether it be for a solo recording or for the band?
Generally, I kind of knew. There's a few songs I wrote myself that ended up being recorded by the Warumpi Band, but I was conscious of the fact that they would suit the band, I think, when I was writing them too, you know, but whereas other ones I wrote were never recorded by the Warumpi Band because they didn't really suit.
Mm-hmm.
So I just after a while just knew the kind of songs that would suit the band, and I was always looking to write stuff that George could sing, and I was always looking to write stuff that everyone could somehow contribute to, you know. So we often had, you know, ideas were often thrashed out in jams and rehearsals, and any sort of musical idea that I could pick up from one of the other players, like Sammy Butch, for example, I'd try and make a song out of it. I guess I was trying to encourage people to become, for the other fellas to, you know, become songwriters. And to a large degree, that didn't really eventuate, although in recent years George Rumpy has gone on to actually write songs without me. He's written them with other people, so he certainly has written songs. But generally, songs that I've written with Sammy Butcher have been collaborations, and the fact that there's something about the way he's played that has suggested the song, you know, in that sense. He doesn't regard himself really as a songwriter. He sees himself more as an instrumentalist, a musician, in that sense. So after a while, I kind of I just sort of became. It was easy to write songs for the Warumpi Band. It somehow was well aware of the band's appeal and the kind of framework that we had to work in, and it became easy to write when you got parameters around you. And so it was, in some ways, I could come up with Warumpi Band material quicker than I could come up with stuff for myself in some ways, because I was a bit more anything goes with my own solo material. And in recent years, it's been like the more intimate, more reflective kind of songs that I generate. I usually save for my own albums. And but if I was writing songs specific for the Warumpi Band, I had a different kind of thing in mind, and I was always conscious of the fact that this had to be played by the Warumpi Band, and musically it would have to be a certain style, and that if George was going to be singing it, then it'd have to be something that he could get his head around, you know. So that's kind of how things worked, I suppose.
Now you're on your fourth solo album now. Are they still a learning experience for you?
Oh yeah, of course. Each album I've done has been some sort of progression, some sort of deepening. I think I try to. I like to think that I'm tuning, sort of refining my own particular voice and in the kind of songs that I write, and I hope that I'm more effective with the songs, and that somehow they strike a deeper chord. I kind of feel that there's a deepening in that area, in the kind of songs that I'm writing and how I'm delivering this. Like I'm trying to feel it. I've got to a position where I know where my strengths are, so I try to write towards that.
Career-wise, what did the recognition for the APRA Award mean to you, the Songwriter of the Year Award?
Well, in one sense, I suppose it helped my profile, bit of publicity and things, but the other thing was that, well, if you're going to get an award, it's probably, for a songwriter, it's probably about the best award you can get in this country, because you're not selected by a bunch of industry boffins. It's actually as a result of votes by all the APRA members who are composers and songwriters and musicians all over Australia, 18,000 members. They get a form and you've got to vote on the Song of the Year. There's a whole list of songs, and that particular year, 1995, the Mile and Home was in there because of Christine Arnoux re-recording it, doing her version of it, and so that came up trumps in the postal votes basically as a song. So it was nice to get that recognition from one's peers.
Now, in terms of your writing, you've also written novels and plays as well as your music. Looking down the track, do you see your priorities perhaps switching a little bit away from music towards these fields? Or is music always going to be number one?
I don't know, really. Every time I do an album, I think, well, that's it, I won't do any more. But invariably, I do another one, so I can't say for sure. I did one play, which I really enjoyed the process of, and I do like to write prose and longer stuff, and I hope to be able to generate another book at some stage. But I think I'll continue to probably write songs, as long as I can find outlets for them. I like the idea of actually writing songs for other people to sing now, more and more so. But that's not an easy task to do. You've got to try to attract the right artist that can sing, that wants to sing your material, or vice versa. You've got to write something for some artists so that they want to sing it. And I've never really done a lot of songwriting like that, except for the Warumpi Band, but I was in the thing, so I was much more closer to it. But I've written a couple of songs for Christine Arnoux, which is a result of a close association with her at the time and being inspired by her talent to do so. But apart from that, I haven't really done a few collaborations, but I'd like to be able to get more songs out there. I'd like to be able to have other artists sing my material.
Has it been difficult at times basing yourself away from the major capitals and trying to conduct a career at the same time?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but it is a bit of a sacrifice, but it's something that I want to do because of family reasons at this point. And I want to, do that. And I suppose I just was in Sydney last weekend and did as much as I could in a few days. Did as much promotion and TV that I could while I was there. So whenever I get there, I do a lot. But then again, I don't know. I just although I suppose I should be closer to some of the major capital cities down south, but at this point in time, I find that I've got to reside in Darwin for this period of the year, and just rely on flying in and out and doing some gigs to kind of keep things going a bit. But I rely on the record company probably to do their job. But I don't know. You'd think with the technology the way it is these days, you don't really have to live. I've certainly proved that you don't have to live in the city to stay in touch, I feel. But
not so much as in the past, I would assume. No.
But, and I've always aspired to be able to live in the country in some form. I just perhaps didn't plan on being this far removed from the rest of the country at this point, but that's the way it is. But I do tend to get back to. I'll be back in Victoria, for the summer months again, to tap into all the festivals and whatnot that are going on.
Yep. Let's talk about the new record before I let you go. The recording process of it was done in bits and pieces, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, basically, at my music publisher's Rondor in Sydney, they have a small writer studio. I just started to cobble together stuff there over about whenever I got to Sydney over the course of a year, and called on friends and that to help out, and then the thing built up, and I took it out of there and did the final finishing touches with James Katsky at his studio in Balmain in Sydney, and mixed it there as well. So once again, it was totally self-financed right through to the mastering stage before the record company got involved in it. Yeah.
Given the choice, would there be another way you prefer to record rather than in fits and starts like that?
Well, I'd like to have someone put up the money firsthand so I could have a budget to complete things a bit more smoothly, and probably pay my friends a bit better to play on it. For sure, yeah. But that's the way it is, and if you're if you're a songwriter, you got to get your songs out whatever way you can.
Yeah.
So you do it. I still think that the end result was quite pleased with. So.
Were all the songs written beforehand, or did some actually emerge during the time of the recording process?
A couple probably emerged during the recording process, yeah. But the rest of them were pretty much done, yeah.
And over the course of time that it took to record the album, did you change or alter how you wanted any of the songs to sound in the studio? Did they change from how you originally envisaged them being?
Slightly. There were slight changes. I mean, certainly, there's a little bit of tweaking going on, but pretty much once the song's done, I mean, even if the lyrics changes don't really change much, and the basic arrangement doesn't really change much. It's just the instrumentation can change due to financial constraints or opportunities, or who's in town at the time, or some songs that I didn't think would get up and get a Guernsey ended up sounding really good, and some songs that I thought would be dead certs on the album I ended up not putting on because I didn't come up. That's the way it goes in the recording process.
What about away from music? What else can we expect from you in the near future? I believe there's a collection of poetry kicking around.
Yeah, it was been published by NTU, the Northern Territory University Press. It's called One Man Tribe, and it's a bit hard to locate in bookshops. So I sort of say to people, if they get on my website, which is www.neilmurray, all lowercase, one word, .com.au, there's instructions there on how to order a book if you want to. Otherwise, I've been selling them at gigs, so next time I'm in Melbourne, people can pick one up at one of my performances. But it's a collection of mostly performance poetry from over the last 20 years. Which I've been... It took me more than a decade to get that collection published, really. I just kept on with it and kept improving the collection until I finally got it out. So it provides a nice break to songs to actually put the guitar down and do 10 or 20 minutes worth of spoken word during a set. Provides a good contrast, and people seem to appreciate it.
And what's the status of the Rumpy Band these days? I saw you mention on TV the other night occasional gigs. Is that pretty much how it's going to be from now on?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. We do. We're not out there touring like we used to, but we do special events, festivals. We are available for kind of appearances like that. George is, I believe, working on a solo album at this stage. So.
Oh, is he really?
Well, I believe so. I don't know what point it's at, but until that's kind of done and out, any prospect of the Warumpi Band doing another recording, I couldn't really say, at this point. So it may happen. I wouldn't discount it, but at this point, it's good for him to have another outlet totally, and to do something with different people. So He was doing that in Melbourne, I believe, at some point during the summer. I don't know what stage it's at. But something to surface on that in the near future. I think the next time we're actually going to play, I think, is going to be in early July. I think we might be going there for 2 or 3 gigs. Yeah.
Okay, Neil, look, I'll let you go. I know it's really late, and I do appreciate you catching up with us at this late hour. I know it's been a busy time for you lately, too. Congratulations on the new album.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. It hasn't been out of my CD player for the last week or two. And we'll look forward to catching you next time you're in town.
Okay, then.
Okay. Take care, all the best.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.